Hey guys, this is going to Sky here with another Guardian Tales video, and in today's video I want to talk about the best healers here in Guardian Tales. And before I get into that, I want to talk about what content do you even use healers for? Because I think a lot of people are talking about progression in this game. The things that people are trying to focus on are Arena and Coliseum. Out of those two things, you're probably going to see a healer more so in Coliseum, but not necessarily that much. A lot of people, if you've been following this, the most common good like top tier healer is Maya. That's a unique 3-star hero. We're going to get into that here in a second, but even she's not really in the top Coliseum meta. So what is the point of a healer? And you're going to use a healer a ton in a lot of progression in this game, and especially if it's one of your first heroes you happen to pull, you're probably going to use them in Coliseum and you're going to do well with that character, especially if it's a good one. Progression here in the Tower of Horizon, this is a per element basis, and a lot of times you're really going to need a healer, and then there's going to be mostly a healer for every single faction, so we'll go over that. But I'm also going to talk about the best healers just in general when it's not element restricted. Mainly progression is Orbital Lift here. You absolutely need a healer for a lot of the stages. And then Camazon Zone, that's a really big part of progression in this game when it comes to extra Awakening Stones and Hammers. This is a big part of the game here in the Camazon Zone, and healers are going to be a really integral part of actually progressing through here. Also, healers are going to be a really big deal in some of the harder content here in the story. This is something that people have struggled on. You see this on Reddit a lot, that people are struggling with a lot of the passages up in the higher end of story here. So healers are going to be a really big deal in progressing through this. And I'm assuming that that's going to be something that's going to carry on further into the even harder chapters. Like right now we're in chapter 12. Haven't tried this yet. Definitely going to be waiting here. I'm waiting until I want to stream it. So when I have the time to stream it, whether it be in a few days, I want to have it all recorded. So that's why I'm waiting on the story. But so far, this is notoriously a very hard section, and I think a healer is a really big deal in helping progress through that. Not so much in raids, not so much in arena, and kind of in Coliseum when it comes to these characters. But with that out of the way, let's actually get into what the best healers are. Okay, so the first one I want to bring up is going to be Maya here, and she's by far well known as the best healer in the game. She has the best healing throughput in the game. Let's break down her kit for all these characters and just kind of talk about why they're so good. And the first thing is going to be Winds of Passion, blows hot wind with a fan. It's just literally her auto attack, nothing attached to it. Some characters have things attached to it. In her case, she does not. Maybe like a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just have a very basic auto attack and then attach something to it with the unique weapon. And then she has a second move. Usually a lot of healers have a second move that's their actual heal. She has restores HP of all allies in front. Also removes negative effects. That's actually fantastic. A lot of times it's just a heal, but she's doing both just on the auto attack thing, which is usually on like an 8-second cooldown. She has her weapon skill here, which throws burning fans 3 ways and then pulls them back, puts enemies in an airborne state, which is good. Airborne state, I'm a big fan of airborne because it helps range damage, and usually range characters are going to do more damage than melee characters, just from a convenience standpoint of being able to attack from range, and just in general that they're usually kitted out to do more damage. So having the thing that boosts range damage, which normally hits harder than melee damage, is why I like it. Okay, and then chain skill restores all allies HP by 50% and removes all negative effects, and then increases crit rate chance by 20% for 5 seconds. So not only is it a massive heal, because a lot of these heals are going to be based off of the healing. It's like 50% of their heal, versus this one is just restores all HP by 50%, just a flat, here you go, here's half of their health. So a very good chain skill here. And then removes all negative effects, which is also amazing. So you got that on the auto and you got that on the chain skill, and then increases crit rate. So who doesn't want more damage? And then lastly, the special ability when you get her 5-star is going to be when using Winds of Passion, restores HP of party members with lowest HP by 20% of heal. So that's an example of that percentage thing here. So right here, Winds of Healing is the second move, but Winds of Passion is just her auto attack. So literally just on her auto attack because of the special ability. So you really need to make sure she's at least 5-star to really get the most value out of her, even if you don't have her EX, which is when using Winds of Passion restores HP of the party member with the lowest HP by 20% of heal. So that right there, that combination with her chain skill already is just putting her well over as being the best healer when it comes to just pure throughput. And then her special weapon here, which is on Winds of Passion hit, inflicts extra 20% damage as DPS in case there's a party member on its way, restores party members HP by 10% of heal. So just another way of increasing even more healing. So it's a really good character. when it comes to needing survivability and a lot of those extra like progression style PvE game modes. You absolutely need to have like really high healing throughput to ever have a chance of surviving. So that's why Maya easily makes the top of the list as overall the best healer in the entire game. And one thing I like this, just as a little quick tip, in a lot of Coliseum where you don't have control of the character, like you're setting it up Coliseum wise or Camazon zone wise. One thing I like to do if I'm really struggling with survivability is making sure I have Maya, like making sure she's right here in the party. Because how the chain skills work is it's going to go future princess and then whoever's right here. So if you have her over here, what's going to happen is the chain skill is going to, a lot of times by the time you get the chain skill, you're pretty low. If it's hard content, then Nari goes, then Lilith would go in this case scenario, even assuming that this is actually a legit chain, then she will go. But that's sometimes too late. So if you have her right here, she goes, and then boom, you get the 50% heal. So it helps with a ton of survivability. To just, the order matters is what I'm trying to say. And she's very impactful because she'll immediately, like, so she'll go and then boom, you get 50% HP to everyone on the team and more crit rate. So really nice to have that activate as soon as possible. And then another thing just to keep in mind is that it literally activates on anything. So notice how the chain skill here is activates on all, so it goes from all to down. So they could be airborne, they could be injured, they could be grounded, and you can activate it. That's why a lot of support's really good, and this is something to really keep in mind going forward, because a lot of characters that are good have that ability to just be able to activate it whenever. So it's just a really versatile way to activate a skill. Okay, so now that we got Maya out of the way, and I think she well deserves to be the top spot here in the healing category, let's talk about some more accessible healers. And both of these, pretty much all these natural 2-stars are going to be available just as free to play through progressing through the story. But let's talk about Aoba here. So she's an earth type healer. She gives, as a party buff, the 50 or 45% earth attack, which is fantastic. I really like healers that are also giving damage, because they're not really going to be providing much damage, but in a lot of content you're going to still want to be able to bring a healer but then not slack in on how much damage you're doing. So I like that. Same with Maya. Even though there's better ones out there, the skill attack is still nice. Now we have her. Let's break down her kit and why she's good. First of all, the main thing is she's going to be incredibly accessible, and she also has really good healing throughput. So what makes Aoba so good is, since she's a natural 2-star character, you can build her while also building and trying to level up your natural 3-star hero. If you pulled any of these Earth characters, pretty much every single Earth natural 3-star character you start with, except for Aleph, is an amazing character. Whether it be Rue, Tinia, Beth, or Mayriel. And ideally it would be Mayriel, but all these, you can't go wrong with any of these if these are your starter characters. So as you're leveling up them, you're going to need to go mono Earth, and Earth is by far the best faction in my opinion as a mono team. Probably the mono Earth or mono Dark if I had to choose on what I would want to start with. But that's what makes her so cool, because you're going to be having your main character and you're going to have a really good healer as your side character. You're going to be able to level up with your main 3-star character. So there's that going for her. This is a very popular build path, and even people would give this advice before she got her EX, and her EX weapon is actually pretty awesome. So we'll get to that here in a second. Let's go to the rest of her kit here, which the normal attack is a flower petal arrow, shoots a special arrow that only fairies can use, so it's just another basic auto attack whenever it's like that. And then she has the second thing, shoots a healing arrow to the party member who has the least amount of HP left and heals him or her, also removes negative effects. And usually the heal is actually pretty significant. Then we have another weapon skill that is going to be airborne, launches thorn-growing arrows around the enemy, puts enemies in airborne state. And then all the earth characters you're going to be with are going to be ranged for the most part. So I really like that she puts people in airborne. Then she has the chain skill, it procs on any other status effect, and then restores all allies HP by 50% of heal. See, notice the big difference here between Maya and her. It restores all allies HP by 50% of heal. Not 50% HP, 50% of heal. And the heal stat is something that gets added based on your weapon. And removes negative effects. So she has the negative effects. So we're already seeing a massive difference between Maya and Aoba, but still good. Like we started with the top because Maya has negative effects off of the auto attack and the chain skill, but it's 50% HP versus 50% of heal. So we're already seeing a pretty big difference there. And then lastly, her special ability, which is moisture absorption, for each hit on water type enemies, restores allies HP by 1% of heal. So having, if you're facing a lot of water enemies, her healing gets better, but it's still probably not on the level of Maya. Definitely a really good character. I like having her. She's really accessible, easy to level up, works well with other Earth characters. So like with her airborne, and then all the other Earth characters are ranged. So I don't regret investing in her at all. I've used her in a ton of raids. I think I probably invested more than you need to, but the times I've invested, the reason why I invested so much into her is because the raids I've taken her into, like, survivability is actually an issue. Usually it's not necessarily the case on the side characters, but some of them are actually pretty tough. The Portrait Lady was the one that I believe the reason why I actually maxed her out on Awakening Stones. But I haven't limit broken her. I don't ever plan on limit breaking her because I don't take her in too much. Probably just going to be using her for select missions in the Tower of Horizon and maybe some raids, but at this point the Earth team is pretty nuts nowadays with the 4 unique characters in Gabriel, Beth, Tinia, and Rue. So really good support character, really helped out, especially in the Earth Tower. Earth Tower and raids for me. Okay, and then next on the list, we're going to talk about Gabriel. And this is in no particular order, by the way. These are just good characters. So Gabriel here. And the reason why I want to bring up Gabriel is because I feel like it's a common misconception of her being a healer. And she's not healing in the typical sense that where she is going to be a really good healer from the side. You bring her on your team and then she heals well. The thing that Gabriel is good at is she's only a good healer if you're actually piloting her as the main character and using her weapon skill. Because you need to have her main weapon and you need to use the weapon skill to finally actually start to do healing. So let's break down her kit and I'll show you what I mean by that. So the thing about her is she's really high damage. She's really good in Coliseum. She's really good in raids. She's just overall one of the best characters in the game. And if you're piloting her, nowadays with MK99, most people are going to be piloting MK99 and she's going to be a side character on the team. So that might not necessarily be the case. But if you are piloting her, she's going to do a really good job of healing for your team. But that's really the only time. Okay, so let's break down our kit. The A1 is flicks a bow and shouts out a sound wave, reduces light type resistance by 20% for 3 seconds for each enemy hit by the last attack. So finally we have an auto attack that actually does something besides just do damage. So, but remember this though, that it flicks an arrow and reduces the resistance by 20% on the last attack. So imagine attacking and you have that whole bar. It takes forever to get to the last attack. But when we look at her EX, it's going to be on every single hit. So it's a big deal to have her EX. And then weapon skill summons a holy sanctuary, puts enemies in down state. Then we got chain skill, strikes holy, with Holy Lightning to inflict 300% DPS, restores all allies HP by 30% of heal. So keep that in mind, 30% of heal is almost nothing, and removes all negative effects. And 30% of heal would be great on like an auto attack, but 30% of heal on a chain skill, that happens too infrequently to really be anything of significance when it comes to being a heal. So, and then restores and removes all negative effects. So she has that going for her. And then lastly, the special ability, which is on Sound of Heaven hit, restores HP of the party members with the lowest HP by 30% of heal. So another really small, and increases the attack by 30% for 5 seconds. So that's actually really good, but it's not a healing thing. She's a support type damage dealer, is what she is, especially when she's not in the leadership position. So then we go to the weapon here. This is where it changes everything. So not only does she get the on Sound of Heaven hit, inflicts 30% of DPS every 2 seconds and immediately reduces light type resistance, restores allies HP in the sanctuary by 100% of heal. So finally we got something that's actually a meaningful amount of healing, which is the last part. Restores allies HP in the sanctuary by 100% of heal. Not this one-off thing that's 30% of heal. It's a thing that's actually lasts for quite a while, and then it's restoring a ton of HP. and it's increasing all the damage that everyone else on the team, assuming they're light, is doing, because on Sound of Heaven hit inflicts a 30% extra DPS, which is great, and immediately reduces the light type resistance. So she's awesome. This is one character that absolutely don't regret ever taking her all the way. I'm glad I did it. I was like, I think she's a pretty good character. I didn't think she was, amazing, but I've the more I use her, the more I appreciate going all in on Gabriel, and especially after they released MK99. So it's just like the light team just got that much better, which is dope. Okay. So she's awesome, but the reason why I want to talk about her is not because she's definitely the complete opposite of these two. She's more so a damage support, but in the rare case that you're actually going to use her as the main character, she's a good healer. Okay. And then now let's talk about Karina. And I would say this character doesn't heal that much. She's a little different because she just does damage, and then based on the damage she heals. But in the situations that I brought her in, I feel like the little bit of healing that she offers is actually kind of nice, and she doesn't have consistent healing like a Maya or like a Aoba, but she has a couple of things that are actually kind of useful. Let's break down her kit. So first thing is she has a basic A1, which is summons bats that deal damage and heals all allies. So her auto attacks, you'll just see like a little bit like trickling in healing. I'm talking like 100. It's really not that much healing. But then weapon skill, damages all enemies around allies and restores all allies HP. Puts enemies in down state, and then inflicts 300% of DPS to target and nearby enemies. So I like that she actually hits pretty hard on her chain skill. And then this is where one of her better things, which is immortality. When HP hits 0, recovers 40% HP instantly, 60-second cooldown time. And then she's also doing the 40% dark attack type party skill. She provides extra damage. She has the slight amount of healing that she's providing consistently, but once you actually start doing your chain skill, that's where you get an actual pretty solid heal there that it definitely makes it to where, for example, in the raid, being able to survive. I really like her passive when it came to taking her into the Dark Tower, trying to clear stage 40. It was like from stages 37 to 40 is really tough. So being for her able to revive like that was actually really nice. So she has a lot of good things going for her. And then lastly, her exclusive weapon, which is giant Fireproof Bat, inflicts 100% extra damage and penetrates enemies. So that's how it just goes through a ton of enemies. So the more enemies you have, it's just going to spam through them, does more damage, and is going to heal a little bit more. Even with that, she really doesn't heal that much. And then also she has good chain with. Before Lilith came out, she would really help with the chain. Like you would be able to go like Beth into Arabelle, and then you could go into her, and then you can go into Lupina. Whereas if you didn't have her on the team, then you'd be kind of like stuck. You'd go Arabelle, and then you just can't do anything, or you could go Lupina and you just can't do anything. So that's why I like her on the team. You'd have to take someone like Eugene, but that's really tough from a resource perspective to just build up a whole Eugene out of nowhere versus another 2-star. That's why I like her. And then lastly, here's the kind of bonus one that I was shocked by that I think is absolutely an amazing healer, is going to be Lorraine. But the key caveat here, all those other healers are actually pretty solid. I mean, her excluded without the EX weapon. Aoba was a really well-known good healer without the EX weapon. She's gotten way better with the EX weapon. And here, let me see if I even covered this. Yeah, just really quickly, on Flower Petal, arrow hit, inflict 20% extra DPS and restores all allies HP by 20% with 20% chance. This has made her a significantly better healer, but she was used even without the EX being released into the game. To give you an idea how good of a healer it is, Maya would be the same way, but her weapon was released on the same time as the character release. So these are good healers without any EX weapon and without being the party leader. Gabriel has been a good damage dealer, but only a good healer with her main weapon and in the main party slot. Lorraine, she is not a good character almost at all until she came out with her EX, and her EX has made her like pretty amazing. Which is I'm going to read this out first because this really changes how good she is as a character. I think she's actually pretty awesome now. And the way I noticed this was when I was doing the basic tower. I was trying to beat the basic tower. You can see the video. I have it all the footage on there. But she is super clutch in that piece of content. And I have a feeling she's going to be really good in Amazon Zone when you have like fire characters banned. I'm going to turn to her as my go-to healer, because here's why, which is when she has her weapon here is increases the range of AoE heal by 50%, because one of her moves is literally just an AoE heal she can spam. So increases the range of an AoE heal by 50% and is cast around the party members of the lowest HP. Inflicts 200% of DPS damage to enemies in the AoE, and provides allies a shield of 100% of the heal, which is awesome. It's so good. So she's not only healing, but then she's shielding. So she has like essentially like an overheal that she's able to do in an AoE format. So it's actually pretty awesome, and it's a bigger AoE. It was already a pretty sizable AoE, and it's even bigger now because of her weapon skill. So this is one of the biggest changes to how good a character is, going from no EX to EX. So I think that's awesome. Let's read the rest of her kit here, which is she just has a basic auto attack that does nothing, and then her AoE heal restores HP of all allies around her and removes negative effects. So really good second ability there. It's on like a 6 to 7 turn cooldown, and it just it goes from just the AoE around there to where when she has her EX, it finds the person with the lowest HP. So it's going to do the circle around the person with the lowest HP. Really good for Amazon Zone, really good for the Tower of Horizon, really good for Amazon Zone if you're, or Orbital Lift if you need her there as well. And then weapon skill, releases the energy sword to Emma, inflicts damage to enemies and puts them in down state. Then we got the chain skill, goes from all to injured. Not my favorite, but still good. And then drops the giant poisonous mushroom that inflicts 295% of DPS damage. And then lastly, she can use AoE healing 2 more times per stage. So you absolutely need to have her maxed to be able to use her. She has kind of she's the only one that she's the only character in the game that has the party skill of just increasing the shield on battle. So if you're taking a lot of damage right off the start, she'll be able to help with that. And I really like her heal now, and her with her weapon. It's just so good. It's legitimately awesome. So she's definitely one of the characters that benefits most from her EX weapon. So before, I wouldn't recommend, if you're going a basic team, I wouldn't recommend building her. But nowadays, if you have the EX, only if you have the EX, she's absolutely worth building. She's super good. As kind of like how I was talking about how Aoba is as a 2-star character that you could build your unique 3-star as an Earth character, then she's a really good Earth character to slot in with your Mono Earth team when you're in that phase of the game. Now Lorraine is a really good character, but the only drawback is you absolutely need to have the EX to justify ever building her at all. There's the 5 healers that I think are absolutely awesome in this game. Those are going to be the top tier ones here in Guardian Tales. Let me know in the comments below if there's any other questions you have for me. And with that, guys, I am out. Peace.